Welcome in, everybody, to Inside The Burrow. We are back, cruising in on basketball season. Football season is coming to a close, as we learned last week. Robbie Lastella, joined by an old friend, not too old, though, Drew Shula, if you remember him. He's been on Inside The Burrow before. Like many of you FAU alumni, he has since moved back away from Florida, but his heart is still with the Owls. Drew, welcome back. How's it going?
What's up, Robbie? It's going well. Love the Owls. Love the show. Like you said, moved away from Florida. We'll be back soon, though. But it feels damn good to be back on the show because there's not too many people that love FAU more than us, and we love talking about it. And we don't get paid for this. We just love doing it. So excited to be back.
You know, Drew, football-wise, this past weekend, I feel like we went through a roller coaster. But luckily, basketball has kind of kept that roller coaster from going down too much and has kind of shot it back up. Before we get into basketball, though, we will give our thoughts on football, everything going on from last week's loss all the way into new recruits in the building. Getting right into that. Obviously, folks, bowl eligibility is out the window, despite one reporter asking Zach Kittley after the game if 5 wins can get him in. And Zach Kittley is a saint for not going off on him for doing that. I don't know why, what that was about. But anyway, bowl eligibility is most likely done as the Owls fell by 3 to UConn in an absolute heartbreaker. No other way to describe it. Back and forth battle. The Owls we're down by 24-3 in that one. They come all the way back. They take the lead twice in the fourth quarter. But UConn, they were able to storm back themselves. They took the lead with about a minute or with 20 seconds to go. And as everyone knows, unfortunately, the kick to force overtime went awry. But I do think, in a game where it didn't go their way, it showed me a lot, right? It showed me they're fighting, right? It definitely showed me you can tell 100% when a team has checked out on their coach and they're thinking about the portal, they're thinking about a trip to Cancun, they're thinking about whatever. This was far from that. When they were down 24-3, the fat lady had begun to warm up on the sidelines, and they put her back in the concourse because they stormed back, Drew. And I don't know about you, but in a game where bowl eligibility went out the window, I still left that game with some hope for the future.
Yeah, second most heartbreaking FAU game. I think we know number one. That one, the heart sank a little bit sitting in bed after the game, after a long college football game. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they didn't quit on Coach Kittley. They love playing for Coach Kittley. They played hard. They played the whole way. I mean, UConn's a better football team than FAU is this year. That's not too bold of a statement. And last year, I mean, just like last year, like we played a UConn team with probably that was a similar talent level to this year's UConn team. If not, probably this year's UConn team's even better. They're already at 9 wins. They have a lot of good wins. Every game they've played, they haven't lost in regulation. All 3 of their losses are in overtime, and they're pretty good football teams. And like we had them beat, like straight up, like we had them beat. We played the better football game, but just story of the season, a few back-breaking mistakes, shooting yourself in the foot. But and then another school, like look at. Some similar opponents. Look at how UAB or FIU played UConn. They got both of them got smothered by UConn. Hey, guess what? We had them beat. So we played a really good football game in some areas, not so good in some areas to be worried about, but a lot of areas that you're really excited to move forward with. And we're not really used to saying that with the FAU teams like last year. Maybe the Tulsa game was exciting because we put up a lot of points and what a football game at the end of the year that we didn't need to win because there was no reason to. The season was over, and it was really cool to see some of those guys ball out. They played really hard for Coach Kittley, and I think there's a lot to build on going towards next week and the year after.
100%. And, I think the one thing I saw which, at times going in the past couple weeks going into this game, the offense was bumping. There was times where the defense gave them opportunities to score, and they failed to capitalize against USF, against Navy, and even going back to Memphis, there were some chances there, but I feel like that one was more on the defense going back then. But this game showed me that Coach Kitley can handle being a head coach, offensive coordinator in the most stressful of situations. He called a damn near perfect game, excuse my French, but a pretty good game, in my opinion. I mean, better than pretty good. In my opinion, that was his best game of the season, play calling wise. Everything was clicking, and credit to Veltkamp for hitting his routes as well. Credit to the receivers for running the right depths. Everything that needed to execute offensively outside of that first quarter. Now credit to them. That's my point here, is they were able to bounce back from some struggles early on in that game that I don't know if they would have been able to do that if this was early season, especially you look at the FIU game. I mean that they lost that game in the second half. FAU almost won this game in the second half, and although they did fall short, that was more, in my opinion, due to the big deficit they set early. So to see Kitley have a play calling game like that, where everything really, really went his way, I thought was good. Look at the fourth down call. This has been kind of beaten by this point, but that 90-yard touchdown, 4th and 1 from their own 10, Drew. I mean, that's exactly what FAU hired Zach Kitley for. A play like that. Obviously, you want it in a more meaningful game, in a more meaningful scenario than a loss to eliminate bowl eligibility. But when I say there's hope for the future, and I am the last person to do this, I am a 6 wins is mandatory. I am I think it's fair to say they'd miss their goal with that. But you also have to look at it from the sense of, what did they do good this year? And this last game, or this second to last game specifically, they really showed that they can execute this offense. And if they can do that consistently throughout an entire season, I think there's really kind of a chance for something special next year and beyond. Offensively, Drew, do you feel like that game kind of gave you enough sense that Kitley can do this himself going forward? There's no need for any offensive coordinator additions?
Yeah, I was pretty confident coming into the year and throughout, even with playing a lot of games where some got out of hand, some we weren't fully in there, some of those scenarios. But I think you talked about that being his best called game. I'd say that's up there with UAB. I think UAB was one of those games where Kitley was really in his bag, and a lot of the stuff was just schemed up perfectly. While this game, I think there was a lot of really good schemed up plays, and the offense was clicking a lot. But I also think this was Caden Veltkamp's best game of the year, where he was just making some plays like the acrobatic touchdown, the 4th and 10 finding Messer over the middle, the 20-something seconds left of, hey, we need to get in field goal range. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's not happening. They're going to play pat. It happened. 20 seconds, he drove about 70, not 70, but like, I don't know, 50 yards. It's impressive as hell. So, I think Kitley, and he doesn't, for those maybe who aren't too aware about the logistics of his staff, he's not paying an offensive coordinator, which would cost about $250,000 to probably $300,000 at FAU. So he's saving money and saving the school money in that regard. And he's still, even though, some schools have like their head coach call plays, like look at USF, but they have an offense coordinator still, because it's important for game planning purposes and personnel and matchups and all that sort of stuff. Most schools do have an offense coordinator, but Coach Kitley doesn't, and he still could bring in one next year, but I don't think it's needed. If he decides to not go that route, I don't think it's needed, and I think this is one of those games that showed that. I think every drive was methodical and really well executed, and Coach Kitley was in the game as a head coach as well, making important timeout decisions and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think the offense is not really going to be an issue ever under Coach Kitley. He knows how to recruit offense. He knows how to call an offense. And he knows how to scheme his players up. So I'm excited in the future for the offense. It's definitely something that, maybe a little less execution this year than we kind of hoped for. Definitely more turnovers than we hoped for. But for the most part, I'd say it's definitely the most exciting offense we've seen at FAU since Lane Kiffin was here.
The defense has had its ups and downs as well. Last week, I definitely don't think it was one of their best performances. I think there was definitely some struggles there late in that game. They were in the early parts of that game. I thought they really did a good job against the UConn run. I think Fajano was hurting them through the air more. But by the end of that game, UConn was able to get some of those big runs that looked like last year a little bit. And so, I'm interested to see this week going into ECU, right? What they do. Do they come out fired up? Because last week for the defense and even for the offense at times, there were some struggles. This game has the chance to be a shootout if both teams are really coming out, full force. I don't know necessarily if that'll be the case. We'll have to see. Last week showed me no signs that FAU has quit. Now bowl eligibility is out the window, so we'll see if there's any, decisions made, whether that's red shirt wise or if anyone, is potentially planning on hitting the transfer portal. We'll see. We'll look at the injury report this week and we'll see if there's any new names that pop up. We'll see. But overall, Drew, this week against ECU, what are you kind of expecting here? Are we expecting a team to come out fired up for the seniors? I know there's some really impactful guys on both sides of the ball that are graduating. Name two: Alex Akovich, Wendell Fallord, one on each. But do you think this team comes out and tries to fight one more time?
Oh, 100%. I mean, look at last year. They had really no reason to fight, like absolutely none. People wanted to hit the portal. People wanted the season to be over, a season from hell. They want to carry that. They want to prove they could beat a good football team this year. No offense to Tulsa, to FAMU, to Rice, and to UAB, but those aren't outstanding football teams in any regard. UAB is a team we've lost to the last 2 years, so people that were on the team those years, like you talked about Alex Akovich and you talked about Wendell Fallord, they want to beat ECU. FAU loves playing spoiler, and who doesn't? Wouldn't you want to, make? I mean, ECU is still playing for a better bowl game. I think their chances at the title are toast right now, but they want to beat ECU. They want to have finished season strong. I think that's something that says a lot about staff, about people in general. Like, how do you finish? How do you finish games when you're up, when you're down? How do you finish seasons? Those are important milestones that you need to hit. And I think they're going to come out swinging like they did last year, even when the season was over. What do we expect? I mean, I think we're going to talk about some younger guys playing, just like last game. I mean, Chris Tooley's played a lot of football this year. He's really young. Zion Perrette at corner. He's played the whole year as a true freshman. Lawrence Johnson's someone that we've seen a lot last week. He made some big plays last week. So I think a lot more youth's going to get in there if possible. We like a lot of the true freshmen like Brandon Hoke. I could see guys like him, like Jade Card, even getting in there. I could see, maybe some linemen and all that. Definitely some defensive guys. So I think we could see some younger guys getting in there, just like last year's game.
I don't want to take any thunder or anything away from the work of Jay Schonplatt, Easton Messer, Assad Wasim, Dom Henry, all the starting four, the core four. We'll call them core four. Yeah. But I do want to see an expanded role this week for Brandon Hoke. I want to see him in this offense in a 40% snap share pass plays. I'm not talking having him run block. Obviously, good to see him run block too, get those reps. But I want to see him get a serious amount of reps in this game because, we'll get into this a little in a minute or so. But there's a chance. I don't know. We don't know anything either. But somebody could leave. Whether anybody could leave on the entire team, and if that's a wide receiver, you're going to need somebody to potentially step up. Now, you could go out and spend a lot of money in the transfer portal, and who knows what happens. Or you can elevate from within, and Brandon Hoke has shown more than capable of doing that. I think in a limited role so far this season. ECU is one of the top teams in the conference. Their corners are good. They just put one in the NFL last year, Siobhan Ravel. Or was that 2 years ago? I don't know. We're getting old by this.
Yeah, that was last year. Yeah,
we're getting old by this.
He was hurt. He was hurt the whole year. That's why he didn't play last year. But yeah, he got drafted last year.
But anyway, point being, ECU's got some talent out there at corner. Trot out Hoke. Let's see what he can do. Let's see if he can make some plays. Obviously, I want Messer out there. I want Platt out there. I want all the guys out there. But more rotations this week. I agree. I think, why not? I mean, I saw a quote from one coach this week. I want to win. So we're going to send the best players out there to win. And, that quote to me is too coach speak when you're out of playoff or out of bowl game contention. That quote wasn't from Kitley, by the way. I believe it was Jamie Chadwell, but I'd have to go back and look. But anyway, point being, get some guys in there. Go see what you got for next season. Be realistic. I mean, obviously you want to win every game on the schedule, but if you don't feel like you can do that with guys on your roster, why are they here? So I think let's see some rotations this week on, like you mentioned, across the board. One last thing I do want to see this week, the tight end position. It's gone ghost. Poof, gone. Obviously it's not going to be, Mike Hirsch is not going for 10 catches for 220 every week, but let's get it back. Let's get some juice in that tight end room before the final week of the season is over, and get some juice going in to next season. So FAU ECU, it'll be a noon kickoff from the Flag, final home game of the season. Drew, I mean, if you're in Boca, you're not, but if you are, you might as well get out. It's a pretty important thing to honor the seniors. I said this on Ken Levicka's podcast. It's a dying trend. It's a dying trend to honor seniors, but why not do it? Don't let it die at FAU. Also, before we kick rocks on football a little bit and switch to basketball, recruiting trail has been hot over the past couple days. Just today, we've got a couple JUCO products. First, we got Roman Garcia, the 6th.
It's a great name.
Yeah, he's from a JUCO in Oklahoma.
I love that.
255-pound defensive lineman. We've seen some of the JUCO transfers be able to come in and make an impact right away. I mean, it hasn't been perfect at times. Kamari Johnson and Therese Reed both
played JUCO, yeah.
Yeah, they both have been able to come in and make an impact. Another guy as well, King Phillips, another great name, Drew.
I like that one.
He's going to be a receiver, 6'2", 180, from Texas and I think it's Corpus Christi.
Maybe Commerce.
No, it's Kingsville. Got it.
Okay.
MU Kingsville. So that's where he hails from. And so, yeah, those are just two of the JUCO guys we got over the past 24 hours. So make sure to stay tuned to FAU Owl's Nest on X for all up-to-date information regarding recruiting. But it's been busy. I mean, I can keep going. They got on Sunday, the day after the game, it didn't go their way, but they still got a 6'6" offensive lineman from North Carolina, 6'6", 262, Aiden Buchanan. So, you know what? I mean, they're getting them in. That's important. Offensive line rebuild this offseason, Drew. That's going to be big. So, last thing on football before we shift gears over here to basketball. It's the topic that nobody wants to talk about. The inevitable potential of transfer portal. Luckily, it looks like FAU has been marked safe from a coaching search this offseason. Thankfully, that won't be part of the new college debacle that most teams deal with. Not FAU this season, thankfully. But the transfer portal never stops, ever stops. And there's a chance that FAU could get hit by it on either side of the ball. But what I think, we don't have any specific information. This is not a breaking news podcast, unfortunately. But if we do get any news, it'll be on FAU Owl's Nest on X. But my point is here, Drew. I think I'm pretty confident no matter what happens, within reason here. I don't, if the whole if squad wipe happens, that's not ideal. This isn't basketball. It's not as easy to flip a roster, but as long as the transfer portal hits here are reasonable, I'm pretty confident that Kitley's going to be able to retool this roster. He's going to have a full off season this time. He has a feeling and a sense of what he needs, what has worked, what hasn't worked. I'm confident that they'll be able to retool. And we saw them do it in basketball. It was scary. After a pretty solid year one for Jake, as everyone left. But look at them now. They're nearing the top 100 in KenPom. I think the fans, if things start to go a little bit, interesting haywire here, once the transfer portal opens up, I think everyone just needs to take a step back and relax, because I think Kitley will be able to retool this roster. Drew, what do you think?
Yeah. We just got to do our best. We're going to get hit in some way, somehow, somewhere. It's just how bad's the damage going to be. Every school goes through it. It's not something to be too scared of, because I think there's going to be some pieces in that are fully bought in that want to stay in paradise. And regardless, you could put record aside. It wasn't amazing, but there was a lot to build on and a lot to be excited for, at least in FAU's regard. Played a really tough schedule and showed a lot of progress. Continuous progress. Throughout the year that just got better and better. And, the dam is like, if it's like a dam and there's water behind it, and it's so close to just crushing and just, flowing. And that's when the winds come, and it's going to flow into next year. It's, we got to, if we can keep some big pieces, some of the best players on the team, that'd be really, really, really big. We'll be fine. Even if we don't, I do want to say that we will be fine, because the staff, that's what they're built for. You have to be built to bring in players, and have to be bring in good players that want to play for you. But if you can keep some of the ones that are already good, that's a huge deal. Huge deal. That's how you compete. So, hopefully the money's there. Those things are kind of not publicized for us to know, but hopefully, we have the money, but I do think we have the dudes already on roster to be able to put together a really good roster for next year, and year 2 of the coaching staff should be a lot better than year 1, in my opinion.
We shall see. We shall see. You never know. I will say both Assad Wasim, Caden Veltkamp both mentioned the premise of next year. Easton Messer was asked about it today as well. He said he'd love to be an Owl next year, although his answer was a little bit more focused on this year than Caden Veltkamp's and Assad Wasim's. If we're being totally transparent, you can find all those different responses on X. But no one has confirmed or denied any potential move here yet. Those things will start to heat up, though, probably next Sunday. Realistically, it could happen Saturday night, but I don't think it's that type of situation. But it could quite literally happen. They could do it once I get the locker room. They could post that Instagram post. So hopefully it doesn't happen like that. Hopefully things work out good. But you know what? We keep you prepared for everything here on FAU Owl's Nest and Inside the Burrow. So stay tuned, though, to our X feed, FAU_Owls_Nest. We'll have every move, good or bad, posted up there. But speaking of good, I think we all need a little bit of good when the transfer portal gets discussed. We'll switch gears over to basketball, who are off to a red-hot start, Drew, with a big win over Loyola Marymount yesterday. We were just talking about how scary it was, and I think it pretty. FAU fans, I understand. You lose your entire roster. You have a good year under your first year head coach. Then you lose your roster pretty much again. You didn't lose everybody. You kept Devin Vanderpool and a couple of other contributors as well who have turned out to be big guys in that locker room. Look at Liam Daco Green especially. But Devin Vanderpool on the court has really grown. The impact of retention. You don't need to keep everybody. But if you can keep one guy who's bought in basketball, that's enough to really, really kind of change things to give you a foundation compared to where you were last year. Owls at 5-1. Matched up tonight against George Mason 6-0. This will be published tomorrow morning, so we're not going to talk too much about the George Mason game. We'll have obviously coverage on FAU Owl's Nest if you missed that one. But so far, Drew, through 6 games, 5-1, only lost to Liberty. What have you liked so far?
What's there not to like, right? I mean, last year I remember around this time everyone was like, all right, I see the potential, but we're not playing great defense. You know, teams are kind of running past us. They're shooting on us. They're out physicaling us. Well, this year the defense, I mean, the switches, the paint presence, the guards on ball, perimeter defense. I mean, they're playing really good basketball on that side. I think that's probably the biggest. That's definitely one of the biggest improvements based off of last year's team. I'd say that. Just defense in general. I mean, they're not giving up 100 points a game. That's a great thing. It's a great thing to do. We transition to offense. I think they're turning the ball over less, and when they are turning the ball over, it's probably not as egregious because they're maximizing opportunities more. The ball movement's something else right now. They are playing like they have been practicing together all summer, which they have. But it really looks like it. Like, it doesn't look like there's like 10 new guys that have been brought into the program. They look like they know where they are supposed to be on the court. They look like they've been playing with each other for a long time. And I think the forwards are really good at distributing, and the centers like Neugebauer and Xander Pintelon and Williams and and even Logie. I mean, they all kind of understand their role, and that's what you need out of a basketball team, because not everybody's going to be prime Shaq. If you're a big, not everyone's going to be prime, prime Michael Jordan. But these people know their role, and they're playing with a lot of confidence. Like we talk about, I don't want to say everybody's name, but let's go with Kanan Carlisle. He knows how to get to that mid-range shot. He knows how to get to his spot and find that shot. And it's not a popular shot anymore, that mid-range jumper, but he makes it work, and that's his shot. So people like him and like Van Der Poel's confidence is through the roof right now. It looks like I think confidence plays a huge role in any sport, but specifically basketball. If you trust your shot, it's probably more likely to go in than if you don't trust your shot. So I think a lot of confidence and ball movement and good defense is contributing to a lot of good basketball being played right now.
100%. I agree with everything you said. You look at last night's game against Loyola Marymount, and I go back to what I like to see early season is, can a team adjust in game, right? FAU came out of the gates really, really strong, but then they got punched in the mouth multiple times, and each time had a response, especially after the timeout. LMU started the second half on a 6-0 run to cut the deficit, I believe, to just 1, and Jacobs called a timeout. And after that timeout, the game completely changed. And for them to be able to call a 60-second timeout, and I'm not saying they flipped the entire game plan on its head there, but whatever they did in that 60-second timeout was enough to prevent the wheels from falling off, because they were starting to. 6-0 run out of the half. They had 3 turnovers, 0-4 from the field, and they don't. They come out. They have a great play to get a bucket. They switch to a 1-3-1 zone on the and then to a 2-3 zone, but back and forth between that at times. That gave them LMU a lot of problems. And like I said, they didn't do all of this in 60 seconds, but whatever they did was enough. And for them to, like we talk about execution in football, for them to be able to have this early season ability to adjust in game is a really good sign. And to me, it shows that this team is bought in. Now, I'm not saying this is this is going to be anything too crazy just yet, but it is a very encouraging sign that they were able to go into a neutral site, limited energy in there, and defeat a team that a lot of people were crowning as one of the top mid-majors right now, top 25 mid-major program. FAU was not even classified on that according to Mid-Major Madness.
Shame on them.
Although, if you're a Field of 68 follower, they don't include the American as a mid-major conference. So take that as a compliment, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, I think it's time that if FAU, by the time you're listening to this podcast, has defeated George Mason, then we need to be we got to start talking about FAU. We got to start talking about the Owls.
Fingers crossed, not middle finger, by the way.
Yeah. In that national landscape, because we'll always talk about the Owls here on Inside the Burrow, good or bad. But if FAU's 6-1 with their only loss to Liberty on the road, with wins over an A-10 team, a West Coast Conference team. Come on now. I mean, I better see my buddy Isaac Bourne for Mid-Major Madness. That's my guy. He better start writing in his poll next week about the Owls. But get on the.
He might get bullied into it online if he doesn't. So.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. But as we mentioned, this is being recorded beforehand. I'd love to break down George Mason right now, but there is no point. My last thought here on basketball before we close the doors on this episode of Inside the Burrow is the depth of this team. I mean, you said you don't want to name everyone down the roster, and I'm not going to do it either, but that's the point. You named 4 bigs there. All of them arguably could start. Logie is, a guy Jacobs has talked about, needs a little bit more development, but we saw him out there early minutes against LMU. Physical guy, impact. The color commentator said he's basically an NFL defensive lineman, and
I was going to say he looks like he could play tight end or like edge rusher or something. He's huge, that guy.
He is.
Massive.
And once they're working on his game, like his game as a whole, but if they can get him to work within the system with that size, to me, I haven't seen anyone in the American yet except maybe Bradshaw from Memphis, who's nearly the same size, and Bradshaw hasn't looked very good. And Logie hasn't played too much, so I'm not gonna say he's all better or not yet, but I'm not seeing the size matchup for him here in the American yet. We'll see. Yeah. But the guards too. I mean, Devin Vanderpool's a guy who has taken an extreme jump from last year. You get Carlisle, who looks to be bouncing back from his struggles from last year at Indiana. Sissoko, who had a big first game against Boston College, had 3 triples, practically won them that game against Boston College. He's been kind of quiet since then, going through a freshman slump. Happens. They have veterans to overcome it. That is a huge thing to have. And then Nico Moretti, arguably I talked to him on Media Day, and we were talking like he's going to be the guy for this team, and he's been hurt and he hasn't been able to be him full self yet. But now he's been ramping up slowly. I mean, this team hasn't even reached their full capacity yet. And I didn't even name our 6'11" freshman of the American Conference Freshman of the Year who made some nice plays yesterday. So, the depth on this team is impeccable, and they're all finding ways to contribute. Kanan Carlisle left with me with a quote after the game, and I asked him, was yesterday what he felt like was his best performance of the season? And he said, no. I don't know what he didn't say I don't know what my best game is. He said I can't say it's my best game because he impacts the game in a variety of ways. And I think that's a pretty cool mindset to have. Obviously, he's a very score dominant guard. But for him to also have 5 rebounds and 5 assists in yesterday's game is a perfect example of that. So the depth on this team is huge because, as you go through a season, you need that depth. You're going to find different ways to attack teams. You're going to have different units. Sometimes you're going to need to guard heavy lineup. Sometimes you're going to need to roll out there with Pintalon, Williams, and Logie out there and see what works. So I like the options that this team has. If they find a way to beat George Mason, it's turning into something crazy. Not too crazy yet. If they go and beat St. Bonaventure, then they set up a matchup with St. Mary's. That's when it gets to that's when you really got to start paying attention if you're just truly a casual. If they go on a streak into that St. Mary's game, They need everyone behind them. St. Mary's is a very difficult team to beat on the road. They need you regardless, but if you're a casual and you're looking for a reason to buy in, if they get to that point undefeated, buy in, because they're looking really, really good right now, and we'll see if they can get to that St. Mary's game undefeated. They got a couple games in there between there. I think in Albany, a St. Leo, but if they're really serious this season, those games shouldn't matter. Those should be cakewalks, if we're being real. So lot to like with FAU basketball, although no bowl game, still some hope headed into the future with FAU football, softball, baseball right around the corner. It's getting to be a spring season here almost in paradise. We still got one or two more months of fall sports to enjoy. But Drew, any final thoughts, basketball, football, before we wrap up this episode of Inside the Burrow?
Hope we get the win tonight. If there's anything you could have taken away from that basketball segment, the boys are playing well. They're ridiculously deep. They're confident. They know how to play with each other. But hopefully this isn't the best they're going to play. Like Robbie said, I don't think it's their best because you want your best to be at the end of the season. But wow, I mean, I was really high on the team, higher than most. I think not too many people paid attention to what they actually did and care a little bit too much about 247 transfer grades and all that. And I'd say so far, I don't want to victory lap too early, but even they're surpassing my expectations so far. So I'm super excited to watch big game tonight. The game in 45 minutes, and the games the rest of the season. Once we get to St. Mary's, that's going to be a really tough test. But one game at a time. George Mason. When you guys are listening to this, I guess it'll already happen. So maybe we sound pretty funny to you, but yeah. So let's get it done tonight. Let's keep it rolling. Go Owls.
Final thought: if they lose, don't hit the panic button either.
No, don't panic. It's very early.
Long season. We'll see what happens though. That's the thing I love about basketball is it's a long season, a lot of opportunities. But if you make the most out of it, something special can truly happen, as we have all seen before. Folks, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Inside the Burrow. We support you. We thank you for supporting us. For Drew Shula, I'm Robbie Lastella. We'll see you next time.